Let's talk about estimating with percents. To estimate is to find an approximate value, in other words, a close enough value that we can determine whether it's reasonable or not. So we estimate when we're out shopping or when we're out to eat and we want to know about what we're going to pay. We want to determine whether we have enough money to pay for something, things like that. So look at this example here. And we're going to talk about this example, and we're going to estimate how much we would pay for this pair of shoes. Now, there are several things that we can do, several methods that we can use. We can use one of these methods, or we can use a couple of them in conjunction with each other, two of them at the same time, in other words. So, for example, if you're purchasing a pair of shoes that are regularly priced at $289.95, and that's kind of the first thing I see is that the shoes are priced at $289.95. So that's kind of close to $300. So that's kind of what I would do in my head if I were out shopping and I wanted to know about these shoes and about what it would cost me. So I would say, okay, they're close to $300. And I'm going to overestimate a little bit because I want to know if I have enough money. But you know you're getting a discount of 45%. How could you estimate the final price you will pay? Well, 45% is close to 50%, and that's where I would use one of the benchmark percents that this talks about right here. So the benchmark percents would be 25%, 50%, and 75%. The reason we call these benchmark percents, there are a couple others. One is 33%. We'll talk about 33% also. The reason we talk about these benchmark percents is because they're kind of easy to make into fractions, and we can also a lot of times figure the fraction of something more easily than we can the percent. So 25% is 1/4. 50%, of course, is 1/2. 75% is 3/4. And I don't know why my pen is messing up. It keeps looking like a 9 right there. That's supposed to be a 4. And 33% is 1/3. Fix this. This looks more like a 4 now. So the benchmark percent that I would use here, if I were going to do that, would be this 50%, because it is close to 45%. So 50% is 1/2, and it's really easy to take half of a number that you've rounded up to 300. So 1/2 of $300 would be about $150. So but remember, this is the amount that they're taking off of the price. Now, this happens to be, it's the same either way, but if you did calculate 45% of the $289.95, you would need to subtract it from the $289.95. So we would subtract $150 from the $300, and we would pay about $150, maybe a little bit over that, because the 50% that we took off is greater than the 45, but we also round it up. So that would be a good guesstimate or estimate as to what we would be paying for those shoes if we bought them at the 45% discount. Let's look at a couple of other examples. This problem with the blue background says, what is the most accurate way to estimate 32% of 19? So, and we have some choices here. They don't ask us what is 32% of 19. They just say, what's the best way to estimate it? So if we did 32%, remember, was one of those benchmark percents, and 33% is about 1/3. It's 33 1/3%, but we won't go into all that. So 33% is about 1/3, so I'm going to say it's going to be this one, because that's the only one that gives me the 1/3 choice. And also 19 is close to 18, and 1/3 of 18 is easy to figure because 18 divided by 3 is the same thing as 18 times 1/3, so that would be 6. They don't ask us for that, but just so you know, that would be the easiest one to do. Let's look at the one with the green background. What is the most accurate way to estimate 23% of 129? So 23% is close to that benchmark percent of 25%, which is 1/4. And this is the one that gives us 1/4 as a choice. So I would just go with that one. 129 is close to 120. They go down to 120 because it's easy to calculate in your head 1/4 of 120. All right, look at the word problem down here. Tony bought cupcakes for his sister's birthday party. 60% of the 45 cupcakes had sprinkles. About how many cupcakes had sprinkles? So 60% is kind of close to 50%. So I would probably go with 50% of, and then I would round this up to make it a little bit closer. 50% of 50, that would be 25. I would say anywhere from 25 to maybe like 28 would be an accurate estimation. So a telephone poll asked people, in other words, they called people on the telephone. This doesn't make sense when you just read it. They called people on the telephone to ask whether they like playing basketball. They surveyed 200 people and 45% said they like playing basketball. About how many people said that they like playing basketball? So I need to figure out what 45% of 200 is. And if I don't want to use my calculator and figure out the exact amount, what I can do is just round this 45 up to 50%. So I would find 1/2 of 200, and that would be 100 people. So about 100 people. If you guessed, I would say anywhere from like 95 up to 100. That would be a good guess. Another good reason to estimate is if you go out and you're, out to dinner or you're grocery shopping or whatever, and you look at your bill and you think that's not there's no way that can be right. You can do the math in your head really quickly to figure out whether the amount is correct. So let's look at an example. Let's say you go to a pizza restaurant, buy a large pizza for $12. So you've got your large pizza for $12 and you buy 2 sodas for $2 each. So that adds $4 to your $12. So that brings your total to $16 so far. The waiter brings your bill and the total amount before you tip is $25.72. You know that the tax rate is 10%, but that just doesn't seem accurate. Without using a calculator, how can you determine whether the restaurant has made an error? Well, if you know that the tax rate is 10%, 10% of something is pretty easy to figure out. So if I were going to take 10% of $16, what I would do is you just have to move the decimal back one place, and it's going to be 1/6. So we're going to add $1.60. That's pretty easy to add. That's going to be $17.60. So we know that there's no way that it's $25.72. So we need to let our waiter know that somebody made an error on our bill. So that's another good reason that you would want to know how to estimate percents, is because there are so many things that are figured out with percents: discounts, your tax rate, your tip amount. You tip, anywhere from 10% to 20% on a restaurant bill. So it's good to be able to do this in your head without a calculator, so that you can do it quickly and know whether you're being charged the correct amount. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.